What is up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Hope you're all having a great week so far. Today's video is going to be talking about my top 5 tips for Airbnbs as a beginner. Today's video is hopefully going to help the people out that are looking for an Airbnb. Maybe you guys are running your numbers on some potential properties that you want to turn into short-term rentals. Maybe you're about to launch your Airbnb, or maybe you're just curious on my experience over the last 6 months of being an Airbnb host. So we're going to keep this video short and concise, go through these 5 tips, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So we're going to start up here with tip 1. This is like some online notepad because this computer I'm on right now in my office doesn't have Word document or pages. So we're using this right now. This is probably the most important tip, and that's why I put it at number 1, because this can make or break your entire investment. And that is run your numbers and then run them again. What I mean by this is don't rely on a single rent projection website and cross-reference all of those websites if you do use multiple. The reason why I say this is because I recently used AirDNA for my website because I was curious on the numbers that it would say my Airbnb would rent for, and it was completely off. For my specific property, it was about $125 a day off, lower than what I'm actually getting. So that is a huge discrepancy. If you guys are looking for potential properties, it can be the complete opposite too. It can over project what you're going to actually take in from an Airbnb from an ADR standpoint or from an occupancy rate standpoint, or it can grossly underestimate it, which is in my situation. And in that case, maybe you completely avoid a specific property that could have been a cash cow for you, or the opposite, where you buy a property and you regret it later because maybe you're not getting the average daily rate that some of these websites will list for you. So just be careful with them. The specific one that I used recently was AirDNA, like I said, and I talked to multiple of my friends that have Airbnbs as well, and they'd actually check their specific Airbnb and they were off as well. So these websites, I would take it with a grain of salt and just run more due diligence on it. And a good way to run more due diligence on your property before you purchase it is look at nearby listings on Airbnb, on VRBO. Side note, above 95% of my listings come from Airbnb. I do have a VRBO account as well, and one booking over the last 6 months have come from VRBO. So I am heavily prefer Airbnb. I think the platform's a lot better. I think it's a lot more user friendly. And I think it's a lot safer from a host standpoint as well. I've gotten a lot of scam or potential scams from VRBO, where Airbnb does a really good job. Anyways, look at nearby listings on Airbnb. Look at their calendar. Scope ahead a couple months. Scope ahead a month. See what their occupancy is. See what they have blocked out. See what their average daily rate is for that specific time frame of the year. Look at their high season. Look at their low season. Look at any restrictions they have. A lot of these Airbnbs around me don't allow one-night stays. I personally do allow one-night stays, and a lot of the bookings I get, I'm going to be honest with you, are parties. So in that case, it limits the amount of potential properties that these people that want to have one-night stays can look at. So I can raise my ADR compared to other people around me. So you want to look at all that. You want to see what you're comfortable with as a host. If you don't want to allow one-night stays, if you want to avoid having parties at your house, then you want to have a 2-3 night minimum. But you also want to make sure you're comparing your property to people that are doing the same exact thing. Because if someone looks at my property in the summertime when it's $250 a night, but they don't want to allow one-night stays, they're probably gonna have to drop their price a little bit because their occupancy rate is gonna be a little bit lower. Number 2, understand the needs and wants and reasons for guests booking your place. One really cool thing about my place specifically is anything you can think of that needs a place to rent or a house to rent, I've pretty much have had a guest do that. So I've had bachelorette parties, bridal showers, baby showers, staycations. I've had people that, just like I said, just want to have parties. I've had family members come visit for funerals or come visit someone in the hospital. I've had family members come and visit someone that's graduating. I've had a lot of graduating people, or a lot of people come in for someone in their family graduating at a local college. I've had people come in for photo shoots, all kinds of things. So you want to understand what makes your property stand out. Another thing is, on my specific property, I have it back to a really, really beautiful park. And I didn't think it was going to be a huge deal. Like, yes, it's really nice to have a park directly into your backyard through a gate. But the more and more I read reviews on my property, the more and more people that wrote how nice it was to have that park easily accessible from the backyard, whether it be their kids just playing at night when they're barbecuing in the backyard, or a lot of people said it was really easy for them to walk their dog or go run around the pathway in the backyard. So for that reason, I actually changed my description and I took a lot more pictures of the park in the backyard to really highlight that as an Airbnb host. Be patient, be confident, and don't lower your rates to maximize your bookings. Find a balance between occupancy and your average daily rate. You got to find a sweet spot in there. You don't want to just lower your rate to just get as maximum amount of occupancy. One, you're going to attract maybe not the best demographic or maybe not the best guests when you have a lower rate. I noticed that firsthand. Secondly, sometimes it's first the second reason is it's not worth it. Some of the fourth point that I talk about here is going to tie into this one, but sometimes it's not worth taking on every single booking that you have. Take a step back once you launch and look at your calendar. Are you booked out months in advance? Are weekends going a lot more? Are booking a lot more than weekdays? This is one thing specific with my Airbnb. Right when I launched it, within the first week of my launch, I pretty much had every single Friday, Saturday booked out for the next 4 months. That made me realize, like, wow, I need to maybe raise my weekend rates and either lower my weekday rates or keep them the same. I've kept them the same. I've had my base rate the same pretty much this entire time. Fourth, you don't have to take every single booking. Sometimes not all bookings are worth the hassle that comes with them. I've over the last 6 months, I've had 3 bad bookings, and every single one of those bookings, it was a first-time Airbnber, or at least that's what they said. They had 0 reviews. I know a lot of people that will not even bother booking or hosting someone that has no reviews on Airbnb for this specific reason. For me, about 50% of the people that I book do not have any reviews at all, so it's just not worth it for me to lose out on 50% of my revenue just because I don't want to take the risk of having someone potentially leave me a bad review or complain or have just a bad outcome in general. The first bad experience I had was someone that just wanted a complete refund from the get-go. That was their plan initially. I read right through them. They were taking pictures of like the smallest things. They found literally a strand of hair behind the bar top in the corner of the house. They took a picture of it. They said they wanted a refund on the cleaning fee. They said the beds were too uncomfortable that they couldn't even sleep on them, so they had to sleep on the couch. They wanted a full refund for that. Keep in mind, I've had this Airbnb for 6 months, and I've had handfuls and handfuls of people say they love the beds. It was the comfiest thing ever. So like it just doesn't make sense. The second time I had someone say they didn't feel safe. There's crackheads out front. It was unsanitary, like blah, blah, blah. So they wanted a full refund for that. And then the third person just wanted some obnoxious requests. Like they said the pool was too hot. They said they wanted it at 75 when it was 82 degrees, and just a bunch of different small stuff like that. So I gave them a partial refund, but every single one of them had one thing in common, and they didn't have any reviews on Airbnb. So really make sure, find the reasoning on why they're booking your place. If they're going to have a huge party, if you're not comfortable with that, find out beforehand, because oftentimes they'll let you know the reasoning on why they're booking your house. And then just if you feel uncomfortable, if you don't have a good vibe from them, just decline the request. You don't always have to squeeze every single dollar out of it. I actually turned down one booking today because I didn't feel comfortable with what they were asking me. Fifth thing, final thing, is not everything has to be perfect right away. This is something that I really struggle with. Sometimes it's better to launch and learn along the way. Now, what I mean by this is, like, don't list your Airbnb when half the stuff in the house isn't working or your AC is broken. Like, if you've pretty much checked everything, if you spent a couple nights there on your own, if you ran through everything and you can't see any problems, then that's when you launch it. But you don't want to launch it when it's like halfway through renovations. I don't mean it like that. You don't need every single piece of software or automation in place before you book it, because a lot of these things you're going to learn along the way. A lot of these things you're going to realize, wow, I didn't need to spend $80 on this specific piece of automation. I can easily do this myself. Like, a lot of people are hung up on it takes too much time to message Airbnb guests, so they hire out a management team or they do an automation that has an automatic messaging system. Like, for me, like, I I didn't have it right away and I still don't have it, if I ever need something like that, I'm more than happy to implement it. But right now, I'm totally fine. And it's something, if I didn't launch it and realize, wow, like I really don't need this, I probably would have bought it. So just be careful with it. Maybe launch your Airbnb first, run through a couple weeks. There's going to be some problems that you can't foresee until you actually launch it. And you have guests that actually go through multiple check-ins, multiple checkouts. Some common problems and some common questions will arise when then you can fix them at that specific moment rather than stress about it. Postpone launching it for 1, 2, 3 months until you think you have everything perfect. You will learn what is important and what you're missing, and also some good ideas along the way for future bookings. Like, for example, that speaker system that I talked about. I had no idea that this was going to be a common question. So after like 1 or 2 months, I finally bought the speaker system, and it's been great ever since. So you'll learn stuff like that. And it's just way less stressful if you just kind of launch it and then figure it out along the way. So I hope this video was able to help you guys out. If you guys have any questions, video suggestions, comment down below. I'd love to hear them. And follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. I think my Instagram's still deleted. It's absolutely ridiculous, but hopefully I'll get it back soon.